When I first started my brand, it was all about creative ideas. And now that it's a multi-million dollar business, everything's changed. And so have I. In this video, I'm going to explain to you what it's been like running my business, how I started it, the major shifts that have happened as the business has grown, why it's overrated to be the starving artist, and really just what it's like being a business and a creative at the same time. So let's jump right in. So when I first started my business, I actually really didn't have a defined role. I feel like many entrepreneurs will resonate with this. I feel like when you first start something, especially off of like passion or love or just doing something because you have an interest in something, you kind of are like the one-stop shop. You're like a one-man army. I remember back when we first started, I was doing customer service, I was shipping out orders, I was designing everything, I was tech packing everything, I was doing production, communicating with factories. I was literally the one-man army when it came to running our brand. So I didn't really have a defined role. I was just an entrepreneur and an owner who loved fashion, who loved streetwear, who loved anime, who loved designing, and I was trying my best to just have my hands on every single thing. You know, I think that, like most entrepreneurs will probably agree with this is what makes you a great leader down the line, because you've touched everything, you understand every aspect of your business. But as your business grows, obviously those circumstances change and you have to learn how to be a leader and pass those things off. So Let's start off the conversation like this. When I first started, I was the one-man army. But as the brand grew, I had to learn to let go and just transform into different aspects of the business and just be better. I think that a lot of times people ask when you first start, how much of your time is creative versus business? And I would say in the beginning, it was 100% creative. It wasn't really too focused on business. I didn't really understand, margins. I was just trying to get the best idea out there as possible. It's like if I had a good idea, I knew that I wanted to create it. I knew I wanted to put it out in the world. I knew I wanted to do whatever was necessary to get it out there. Even if I was going to make no money, I was going to put that product in the world. I think that when you're beginning a business, and like from my end, in my experience, it was really important because I think that when you are creating the foundation for your brand or a product or something like that, the most important thing is, one, having a good product and creating a good community. And it really isn't always about the money. I think focusing early on about the financials too much, at least in my experience, can kind of stunt your growth because you may or may not do things because they don't make sense financially. But not all things are beneficial on a balance sheet, but may be beneficial culturally, may be beneficial to your community, may be beneficial in stamping your brand for validity. There's many different reasons why you do different things, but I think that in the beginning, it was really more so about pushing creative and just building the community and putting as much stuff out there as possible. Like I said, I started my business based on passion, so that passion fueled everything. If I could make $1 or make my money back, I was happy doing things. I mean, quick story, like back in high school, I used to drive and deliver $10 t-shirts with my mom all throughout Los Angeles. And, we weren't really making any money at the time. But what I liked about that was the fact that, one, we were connected with a bunch of different customers. And even though we weren't making any money, the brand was kind of getting out there. People saw the brand. People were wearing things around different schools. And even though every time we drove to a faraway place like San Diego to drop a t-shirt off, it's like, that $10 tee only covered the gas. It meant that there was now a group of people that were wearing my stuff in San Diego that would now be spokespeople for the brand and eventually create that community in that space. So to answer that first question, I think that when we first started, it was really about creative. It wasn't really about business. It was fueled based around passion and just seeing how I could put my passions out to the world. Remember, it's like I started my brand not as a business thing, but more just like a form of self-expression through art and my love of fashion, rather than saying, hey, look, I want to make $1 million. We just ended up getting to this point by the grace of God, obviously, and through a bunch of different changes and things that we experienced. But like I said, it didn't really start off as a business at first. It was just more, hey, look, Jordan likes this, and how can I get Jordan's ideas out as effectively as possible? It's like since the beginning of the business, when I was the one-stop army, my role has shifted completely, and I am more of a leader and a visionary than I am a one-stop army, or really just that one-stop creative shop for everything. I think whereas I still own the brand and a lot of ideas come through me, and I'm still seen as like the head of the brand, and I'm the ultimate, I guess, like pass through for opportunities or the direction or strategy behind the brand. I'm no longer the one person that's doing every single thing. I think what I realized, and I'll jump into this later, what I realized to grow my business, I had to learn to let things go. One of my mentors, who runs a super duper successful brand, he kind of gave me some advice when I was in high school or college when we first started making a little bit of money. And he said the sooner you realize that your brand is not a reflection of you and you start to care a little bit less, the bigger it'll get. And he didn't mean or imply that you have to stop caring about your business. You should absolutely care about every single thing. You should care with a fine-tooth comb for every single detail. But he started saying, like, once you realize that the brand is no longer about you and it's about your customer, it's about the interaction that they have, it's about what's best for the business, that's when the brand starts to grow. So for me, I would describe my role now as a leader and more of a visionary, and like more of a coach rather than a player. You know, like they use the analogy all the time. It's like when you're starting a business, it's like you are the player on the team. You're like Michael Jordan. You're playing point guard. You might be a 2 someday. You might be a 3. You might even have to be a center some days, but you got to go to practice. You got to do the off-ball work. You got to do all of the things that make you a great player. But as you graduate and the brand begins to grow, you no longer become a player, you become the coach. And that coach manages a team of people, a team of players, so that way your team can win overall. Like I said, the goal is to get the championship ring. And, you know, me as a leader, I can't get the championship ring if I'm just being Jordan. You need to Phil Knight. And then eventually from that end, you want to grow to being like, say, for instance, if you're a Laker fan, that genie bus where you own it and you oversee the whole overall strategy of the organization rather than just doing the day-to-day minutia. I now feel like I'm out of the weeds of the maybe like $20 problem, and I'm now focused on the $1,000 problem. And that's not to say the $20 problem is important, but there is somebody that's an expert at that $20. But me as the owner, I'm more valuable focusing on the things that are going to bring us the $1,000, because they allow us to have more $20 players and just be more effective overall. So to kind of sum that up, I am now more of a leader than I am a player. And I've kind of graduated from being on the team to now being like the GM who says, look, I want the best coach. I want the best players. I want to make sure I got the best coaches and I got the best people in process to make sure I can be successful. You know, they say all the time too, and before we jump into a ton of the other topics we have, it's like what makes a great business is like people, process, and it's like people, process, and I think technology or something like that. But on the people end, what they mean by that is like having great people in your business. So that means like hiring great leaders, hiring self-starters, hiring other entrepreneurs within your brand, hiring people who have a great sense of work ethic, that understand your vision and can portray that through the things that you guys create. And then on the process end, it's like saying, hey, look, now that I got these great people, how do I create a system or a process that allows them to be successful? You know, what are the things that are uniform to our business? What are the structures and formulas that I can insert any type of person in to make sure these things are successful? So that way it's a little more turnkey rather than kind of thinking of the business on the fly. You know, it's really about strategy, not so much creativity or doing things off of like motivation. It's really based around discipline, organization, structure, and having like a very clear sense of direction with your business, not so kind of fly on the wall, random creative things like it did in the beginning. So in the journey of scaling and becoming more of a leader, there have been a ton of different things that have surprised me, but a lot of things that have really just kind of opened my eyes in the world of leadership and just like shifting business. So the first thing that really surprised me with scaling is, one, how I guess organized your business needs to be. Like I said, I started my brand as a passion project. It never was set out to be this super duper huge entity or, you know, something that I never even imagined it to be something that would take care of my family or be as big as it is today. And by the grace of God, it has been. But with scaling, what I've really learned and seen is just like, one, how important people are in the process. And even though you're a leader, that you still have to remain in the weeds of your business and understand all aspects. I mean, I think that one of the early lessons I learned early on was that I was not super involved in the process. As a result, I had people who were stealing from the business. You know, I had team members that kind of took advantage of the fact that I wasn't really on it. You know, I myself wasn't the greatest leader, so I didn't really communicate my goals or visions or hold my team accountable too well. And I didn't really understand that in order to scale and have like a consistent structure, I needed to model that structure and really model what I wanted in my team and create a clear sense of goals and direction. Otherwise, my team would be lost. I mean, I think that a lot of times when I first was starting to get into the role of leadership, I thought that, hey, look, I have this great idea, and if I just bring people around, they'll understand it immediately because they're thinking like me. But that was actually not the case at all. I think that no matter how good of a person is, unless you are clearly articulating your vision, the direction that you want to go with your business, you're clearly articulating like where they need to go, how they can be successful, their measurable outputs, their follow-up tasks, and just really making it very clear on like where you want these people to go, they won't go in the right direction. You have to lead people, and if you're a leader, you know. And I think that with scaling, I learned that really, to be honest with you, that you can't scale unless you're a leader. I think that you can have a great idea, and great ideas are a dime a dozen, but what makes a great system or a great process or just a great, I don't know, just great scalability in your business is being able to like map out the course. It's mapping out the course is really important. It's like, I'll give you a quick analogy. It's like one of my mentors said to me the other day, it's like when I first started my business and I was the one-man army, or I was the guy that just had the people around me without leading them. It's like the analogy of a person being in a forest and just putting their head down and chopping trees. It's like at some point in time, you're going to be chopping trees. You're going to get lost in that forest forever because you don't know where you're going. You as a leader have to stop, climb a tree, figure out the direction that you want to go, and chart the direction and say, look, we're going to chop north, and we're going to keep chopping north because this is the way out of the forest. But if you don't, then you're going to look up and you're going to be stuck, and you're going to be like, man, I got all these people around me, and we just keep going in circles because nobody's really leading and charting the direction. And I think as a leader, I had to learn, like, you know what? There is a world where I'm separating creative from, and creative and being involved in every single process in there. And I have to let some of that go in order to be a good leader and visionary for my brand. On the same end, another thing that really surprised me too was how much I had to like learn to separate myself as a business and understand that there's balance between being a entrepreneur, a business owner, and a creative. I think that oftentimes we have people who have great ideas, and we think just because you have a great idea that you're an entrepreneur and that you know how to run a business, but it's actually the exact opposite. I think that, you can have great ideas and you can be a great person and you can have like things come out all the time, but in order to run a business and be successful, you have to learn how to separate yourself a little bit and figure out how to bring those ideas not just to life, but how to market them, how to have them reach a consumer base, how to talk to a specific customer, how to sell them, how to have the interaction be good. There's so many different layers to being a creative and being successful and being an entrepreneur, rather than you just being like, I have this great idea and now I'm going to be a millionaire. It's like, it doesn't work like that. There isn't a linear path to success. It is really a lot of roadblocks and ups and downs and things that you have to learn, and areas where you have to really be selfless, not only as an owner, but as just a person that's part of an overall process to help your brand and vision grow, So on that note, now I'm gonna jump into the shift between being a creative and now being a business owner. Before I jump into those things, I want to kind of explain the difference in mindset. So first, you have a creative mindset. I feel like in my mind, creative mindset is really primarily focused on getting ideas out into the world. It's very exciting. It's like, how can I find inspiration from this thing? How can I come up with this idea and put it out into the world? How can I, solve this problem? I think as a creative, your mind is constantly running in a big picture perspective where it's like, you have all these grandiose ideas and you just want to bring them to life. You're not so much concerned about the process of bringing them together. You're just thinking like, wow, this is a great idea and I can put this out there in some kind of way. I think that the power of being creative also too is like you're constantly thinking of things and ways in which you can stay fresh. It's like, you're never settled. You're always in a place where you're thinking of the next thing. And I think that's great as a creative, but as a business owner, it's a little bit different structurally. So on a business mindset, in my opinion, it's the exact opposite, but it kind of complements the creative mindset. It's like on a business, it's like, how can you scale these ideas? How can you grow? What are you doing that's best for the business? This idea may be great, but is it possible? Does it make sense for the brand? If it does make sense for the brand, how is it going to affect the brand short or long term? I feel like on the realm of creatives are a bit impulsive, where our business is a little more strategy. And that's not saying that the two are mutually exclusive with one another, but I think business at its foundation looks at the bigger picture as a whole rather than the idea and the individual that is creating things. And in order to be successful as a creative and an entrepreneur, you have to find that middle ground balance between the two. I think as like a business owner, I continue to say this, and I'll mention this a lot more and I'll explain it a lot more. It's like, as a business owner, your main objective is to grow the brand and keep it growing, keep it making money. The primary function of a business is not to reach people unless you're like a nonprofit, but it is to make money and sell more product. It's like if you're a t-shirt business, you want to sell more t-shirts. You should be thinking to yourself, what can I do to push this agenda and sell more t-shirts? It's not going to be, it's like ideas are subjective. It's not going to be the next next great idea that you make that's gonna make you millions of dollars off of t-shirts. I mean, the idea is important, but it's like the scalability and the structure and the organization that you put in place and the people that you hire or the strategies that you put in place for marketing. Those are all of the things that are going to, I guess, get you to the point that you want to get to for scaling and growing your business. Like I said, the business mindset is about growth and doing what's best for the business, whereas a creative mindset, in my opinion, is about ideas and doing what's best for yourself, or just being like big picture and like really having fun with things. It's like one's fun and one is organized. The two can exist together, but they're very different mindsets. So the biggest thing I'll talk about with creative versus business is the importance of money and strategy with money and money management with the decision-making process. So I think that on the business end, the financial piece is what really separates one of the main differences between creatives and doing what's best for the business. So I'll give you a prime example. It's like in my current business, you have things like inventory, overhead, hiring people, structure, things like that. I mean, even down to doing things like marketing and how you have to invest in that. I think that when you involve money into the creative process or just process of growth with your business, it changes the structure and dynamic, and it goes from just big picture ideas to now saying like, you want to do these things, but how are we using data and, this analysis to make sure that we're making the right decisions. I think on a creative end, it's like I said, your primary function is just getting the idea out there. You just want to put it out in the world. Doesn't matter how expensive it is. But on the business end, it's like, yes, we can get this idea out in the world, but how can we dumb it down a little bit to where it makes more sense for our brand? It's not just necessarily about getting the idea out there. It's like, how do we get it out there as effectively as possible? How do we not overbuy inventory? How are we paying attention to all these different things that will grow our brand and make us bigger in the long term, rather than us being focused on the short term and saying, hey, look, like, we made this great idea, but now we're broke as a result of it. There was no sell through. There was no marketing. I think that when you involve money in things, it forces you to think about the tangible output and return you get as a result of creating these ideas. And it no longer becomes about just putting a good idea out there, but it's like putting the good idea out there with a purpose to have your business grow, or that idea sell through, and figuring out how, once it does do that, you can create like a system and process to, have things kind of feedback in. I say on the business end, and like I said, I'll talk about this a little bit more later. I say on the business end, I realize that people often kind of like overlook this money thing, but I think money is so important in relation to even being creative too, because I think that when you are creative and you make money in a business, the more money you make, the better of a creative that you are, arguably. It's like, imagine you're a starving artist. You make great comic books for a living. The better you get at your the more money that you make on your comic books, guess what? The better production you can get in your comics. Maybe you can improve the quality of the paper. Maybe you can start working with colorists and other artists that will enhance that. Or in a brandscape, it's like you start making more money. Now you can do cooler activations. You can do pop-ups in different cities. You maybe can expand your product line and now no longer only offer t-shirts, but now you're making pants and jackets and hats and accessories that overall enhance the brand vision. I think that, like I said, having money as a creative and a business owner just adds a little gasoline to an already existing fire. But from a structural standpoint and just strategic growth standpoint, you're no longer just getting the idea out there. You're getting it out there, making it grow bigger, so that way more people can enjoy your idea, and then on that same end, reinvesting that, so that way you can continue to make good ideas and eventually make better ideas, have more output, and have more processes kind of set up so that way your business can grow. What I really want to talk about next are some of the trade-offs that you experience when you transition from being more of a creative to a business owner. Like, going back to the original analogy that I had of being the coach versus the player, it's like you trade off the day-to-day things that may have been why you started doing your business. Like for me, it's like I love designing and fashion, but now my trade-off is that I don't hardly design at all. I might give a sense of direction and I may approve every single design sometimes, or I may overlook some of the process, but I trade off the day-to-day design work, or maybe the day-to-day marketing work, or even sometimes interacting with influencers if you do marketing, and that's a big part of your brand, for the strategy that I'm creating for my team. I have to, like I said, you have to look at the $20 problem versus a $500 problem. It's like figuring out what's going to be best for the long-term growth of your business and the expansion of your ideas overall, rather than you holding on to some things. And like, before I jump into the trade-offs a bit more, I want to say what you really should focus on and think about often is, like, as a business owner and a leader, what are you best at and what do you love most about your business? It's like, if you love being a designer and you love, and you really value that, then maybe set up your leadership system in a way in which that allows you to design and be hands-on with that process, but hire out the other roles so that way you can spend more time in things. I think in the role of leadership, you have to be honest with yourself on, like, one, what you're good at, what you're bad at, and then what you're willing and not willing to do, and be very clear and concise on that. Because in business, you have to have all bases covered. It's like, if you're a great pitcher, that just means sometimes you may not get to hit some days, but you don't need to be the pitcher, the third baseman, the shortstop, and everything else at one time. You gotta delegate those tasks to some people and really just know what is valuable to you. Like, so going back to the original idea, it's like, there are a lot of trade-offs when you begin to shift from a creative to a business owner and begin to scale. So for me in particular, like I said, I used to design everything. I don't design very much anymore. I have a team of designers, and it's great because, to be honest with you, I love the fact that it's like, I miss designing, but I love the fact that I'm not in the weeds every day, and I have a team of people that are dedicated to design. And honestly, they're better than me. Some of these people have been experts at their craft, not because they're just better designers, but because they spend more time on it. It's like, as a business owner, it becomes a point where you can't do everything, and trying to do everything becomes detrimental because you fall short. It's like, it's like they say it's like, what do they say? It's like jack of all trades, master of none, or something like that. It's like, you at some point in time have to look at and say, look, like, what's best for my business is having some person that's an expert in this space. And though I like designing and I want to be a part of the process, it's probably best for me to just use my information from my love of design to bring in the best designer, rather than me going out and learning how to be a great designer, because being a great designer is not what's going to make me a great brand. Being a great designer just makes me a great designer. It doesn't make me a great businessman, doesn't give me a great brand, doesn't give me a great product. There's so many things that contribute to marketing or just overall brand growth beyond just having good subjectivity in certain categories like design or editing or whatever your field may be. On the same end too, one of the biggest trade-offs that I've learned also too is, like, managing people. I think the biggest thing that people lose out on or don't think about is the fact that when you begin managing people, it's no longer just about you and about moving fast, and you have to move with, intention and teamwork. It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think as a business owner, you kind of learn that the hard way, where it's like, you have to kind of relinquish control over being the main guy all the time. You have to relinquish control and give some trust to your team and say, I understand what it's like, and maybe it's better for me to, like I said, back to the design example, maybe it's better for me to not be the guy that's in the weed giving the design, but the puppet master that's controlling the hand, so that way exactly what's going on. It's like I said, it's just really like a shift of time and priorities. It's like you shift from being creative to now being a business owner, to having different ideas, to being focused on strategy, to being focused on systems and processes, and really implementing things that are best for the overall long-term vision of your brand than you are the day-to-day minutia. I think even on the same end, what a lot of people don't realize, and I feel very passionately about this, is like, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that, becoming a leader, in my opinion, is actually one of the most meaningful things you can do for the growth of your business. Because for me, if my goal is to have as many people wearing my stuff as possible, the vision for the brand and the energy of the brand doesn't leave just because I'm not doing it. It arguably gets better, because when you, like I said, when you have more money, you can pour more into marketing, you can hire better people, you just get a better version of what you want to create, rather than you being the one-stop shop. Now, I say this on the same end, I think that there's a certain level that everybody has. I think that you have to be honest with yourself and know exactly where you want to go with your business and what you want to do. It's okay to be it's okay to be the one-stop shop guy, and be okay with, just having the cool local brand. But if you want to grow your brand on a global basis, you have to, kind of look at it from a big picture perspective and say, hey, I may not be doing what I'm loving directly anymore, which is designing, but I found a new love in just like the leadership and just the overall creative direction, or just like the overall direction of the brand. It's like you look at someone like Virgil Abloh. It's like he had his hand on so many different projects and touched so many different things. And even though he wasn't like saying like designing every single pair of jeans for Off-White, he was just an ideal thinker, and he passed it to his team and his team would execute it. And overall, he was still being creative. He just wasn't the guy doing the day-to-day work like the tech packs and doing something else. Arguably, he was more of a visionary and more of a creative, because he was just thinking of things and putting them in place and putting them in the system that he created to be executed better than he was just doing things in the day-to-day minutia. Like I said, you can't be caught in the day-to-day stuff, because at some point in time, trying to do everything only holds you back. Imagine a world in which you can get out every single idea that you want without any sort of like pushback, any sort of person holding you back, or anything of that nature. That's what happens when you shift from being a creative to a business owner, because once you create that system and that process and you have those people, you can now say, I have this idea, I'm gonna send it to my team and it's gonna get executed. And I don't even have to necessarily be a part of the process, because the process isn't as important. And I trust that my team understands the process that I set up in place in this formula that we created, so that way when something comes out, we know exactly how to be successful. We have this exact measurable output, and things are happening on a more consistent basis, rather than us just saying, you know what, let's just throw it out there and see if it sticks. It jumps me into my next quick topic of like, maintaining creativity as a leader and shifting kind of your focus and mindset, rather than being stuck in the fact that you're not in the day-to-day process anymore. And I want to say that in the sense of like referencing my past example about the Virgil Abloh instance. It's like, Virgil, even though he wasn't on a day-to-day basis, was still the creative at the end of it all. He just had a team that helped him execute more creative ideas. It's like, as a leader, you find love and creativity in the process of creating the bigger picture ideas rather than the day-to-day minutia. It's like, I'll use myself as an example. It's like, I love design and I love ideas in general. Me not actually doing the technical design work does not dilute the fact that I love design. It honestly frees my mind a bit more and allows me to create more with a higher output, because instead of me saying I gotta technically design this bag, I can be like, this is a quick sketch of something and this is the idea that I have. I can give it to one of my trusty team members who may be an assistant or really just understand my vision really well, and he can help execute my vision, rather than me saying I got this idea and now I'm gonna spend 2 days on this, where in the span of 2 days, not being focused on the technical design work of one particular design, I could have come up with 8 different designs, and now my output is significantly higher than it would have been had I only focused on doing this one particular task. I think a lot of times people are so reluctant to shift from this creative to a leadership or a business owner perspective, because they're afraid that they'll no longer be creative, when I think that's the exact opposite. It's like, you are still being creative. You are going to be being more creative. You have a lot more control, and you have people that you can pass the baton to finish the race. It's like having a strong anchor. It's like you can be the guy that starts the relay race, but when you pass it on to the next person, you can just trust that you guys will get it done and watch them run the race and win it all, rather than you being the guy that's saying, I'm going to run a 400. Imagine if you had, like, speaking on that same analogy, imagine if you were running track. You can have one person that runs the 400 against a 4x1 relay. Who do you think is going to win? The person who runs the 4x1 relay, because the person who runs that last leg is going to go all out in his position and make sure it's executed at his best bet in his particular position, rather than you being the guy that's like, oh, I'm going to run this 400. It's like, like I said, at some point in time, it becomes more beneficial for you to just hand things off and just continue to think of ideas, rather than it is for you to be like, I have this one idea and I'm gonna spend a week on it, and now you can't get things going. Imagine if you could execute 10 ideas a day versus doing one idea a day. You're gonna have 10 times the amount of output at the end of the year, because you've just been so focused on creation rather than actually doing and being a part of every single process. And that's not saying don't leave your business out for the world and trust and just like let people just kind of run with it. It's like knowing what you should and shouldn't have your hands on and what really requires all your time. Remember, we're trying to solve the $1,000 problem, not be in the weeds of the $50 problem or the $10 problem. Now we on this kind of like end of being a business owner versus creative. Let me kind of dive back into the piece of money and just talk about the benefits of making money as a business owner and really what it does for you from your overall creative perspective, and just how it helps your business grow and just you push your creative vision a lot more. So first and foremost, the main thing that I've touched on is that you can just invest in better everything. You can invest in better marketing. You can invest in better product. You can invest in better people. You can invest in better processes. You overall can put money towards or gasoline towards a fire that already exists and make your things better. It's like instead of you being limited to the capacity of what you can do yourself, you can now say, I got a bunch of money and I can pour it towards my favorite designer or this person I'm a fan with. I can work with this thing. I can set up these processes and ultimately increase your output from a quality standpoint and a quantity standpoint. The next thing that you really are able to do, and I keep touching on this before with the team thing, is you're able to hire a team and delegate. Hiring a team, like I said, just makes you better because you have experts around you who can pour into your vision and understand your vision and do it better than you can. Like I said, you'd rather have 5 Steve Jobs than one, because those 5 people are going to execute in 5 different categories in the best way they can, rather than you who can only do one thing or may know everything but not be the best. It's like you want 5 people at 100% is better than one person at 100% because you have 500% versus that one. That delegation allows you to kind of spread your ideas even bigger because you can come up with more grandiose ideas and invest more into those things. Imagine it's like you're a concert guy. You can either throw small showcases or you can build the right team and have a music festival that's as big as Coachella or Rolling Loud. But you can't get to that level unless you hire a team, delegate, find the staff, and find the people who are great in positions that can run with your idea and be leaders just like you. The next thing that I'll touch on with having money is the negotiation power that you have. The negotiation power piece I reference in terms of licensing because that's effective in our brand, but just overall general collaboration. I think that when you have money and you have like a sizable business, it opens just more doors for you. You have more negotiation power. You can say, hey, look, you do or don't want to do something. It's like I got like a quote from back in the day that really sticks in my heart the most, and that is a thirst move could be your worst move. And what I mean by that is like when you make a decision based off of money or need or necessity because you have to do something, you might compromise your morals or do things that may not be best for your brand. But when you have money, you can discern between what you do and don't want to do. You have power, you have control, you have negotiation power. Somebody can't make you do something if you don't need them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that on the business end, it's like having that negotiation power is just really not only comforting, but it opens up so many doors because you begin to move from a place of passion and authentic direction rather than being thirsty and trying to make the next check. You know what I'm saying? And then lastly, and this is the biggest thing that people don't talk about too much, is that you have a lot more resources and you can take a lot more risk, which in turn grow your business a lot more. It's like having money is like having a safety net and a good foundation. You can take risks, try things, get experimental without thinking about, man, if I do this, I'm going to go broke. Not everything has to make money. You can get back to what you were saying as a true creative and say, you know, how can I get my thing as big as possible? Well, having money allows you to do that. You know why? Because you can try to do a music festival. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? You just lost a bit of money and you can go back to the structure of your business. You can keep trying things. You can keep pouring into things. You can keep trying new ideas and ultimately growing the business and innovating and being creative and maintaining the thing that you originally wanted in the first place, which is to get your ideas out there. So I think that, like I said, that's really one of the most important things is like the foundation that kind of comes with that. Because when you have that safety and security net, I feel like you're able to just enjoy and be more present in your business and do a lot more things and just have structure and just, you know, really uplift your overall vision rather than saying, you know, let me just do what I need to do to get to a certain point. It's like, I'm not thirsty. I don't need to do this. I'm actually just going to keep trying these things because I'm not reliant on making the next check. It's like, you know what they say? It's like, if you're surviving, you're not living. But if you got bread, you're living and you're getting things done. You can't thrive if you're trying to survive. You gotta live, and having that foundation in a business allows you to do that and allows you to try new things. It's like, bro, if you're creative, it's like, why wouldn't you? It's like, bro, if I was an artist and I could only draw on paper because that's all I could afford, what do you think I'm gonna do when I finally get some paints or a canvas or something else? I'm gonna go crazy. But you can only do that if you can afford the art supplies. And that's the art supplies is really what it's like to have the foundation in the business. It's like those tools just allow you, it's like money is a vessel. It's like a business is about making money, but as a creative, money is a vessel to make you and bring you more opportunities and bring you more visibility and ultimately get your ideas out there even more, which to me is the ultimate goal of a creative. It's like, if I'm a brand owner, I want as many people wearing my shirts as possible. I want as many people to understand my vision as possible. I don't want to just be the guy that made a cool thing that only 100 people saw. It's like 100 t-shirts, bro. There's billions of people on the planet. That's not even 0.00001%. Why wouldn't you want more people on the stuff? You may not want the recognition, but wouldn't you find joy in the fact that a lot of people like your stuff? So like I said, having bread allows you the opportunity to do that. The starving artist piece is overrated because I don't think you have to starve. I think even on that same end, it's like you look at great artists like Cause, or even Murakami, it's like him doing all these different collaborations and working with these different artists ultimately pushes his ideas, and guess what? It gives his fan more service. Look at the growth of the anime industry. It's like you had some people who were resentful, like, man, I used to be teased and bullied, and now everybody's participating. But it's like, because the anime genre is huge now, it's like we get anime movies, we get cooler figures, we get cooler collaborations. It's like the culture pours back into each other and ultimately grows more, and people benefit more, and your consumers become more happy, and overall the artist and the culture grows, and you get more as a result of it, rather than being this starving artist that doesn't get so much. You know what I'm saying? Kind of going to that same point, I think that the notion of being a starving artist is super overrated, and I'm not gonna say it needs to be abolished, but in my opinion, if you're a business owner, you gotta let that notion go. The starving artist piece don't work as in business, really, to be honest with you. So first and foremost, going back to the piece of money, romanticizing being art and in its core and all this other stuff does not pay the bills. It doesn't. You cannot pay your rent or your mortgage or your whatever it is, car note, whatever, with the fact that something is cool. I'll say I come from the world of streetwear where being cool was currency. And I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of people are cool, but they're broke. And it's like one of my mentors used to say this all the time to me too. It's like, what's cooler than being cool? Having money, being able to take care of your family, buying your mom a house, doing all these different things, having a big business, having 1 million people wear your t-shirts, not the fact that you make this cool design that only 100 people know. It's billions of people on the planet. If nobody knows, it doesn't matter. It's like they say all the time, if a tree fell in the woods and nobody heard it, did it make a sound? I don't know. All I know is that I'm not talking about trees and that I want my stuff to expand. You know what I'm saying? I think that romanticizing the struggle is so overrated because nobody really likes to struggle. There's beauty in it, sure. You learn through adversity, sure. But struggling, it's only for a certain period of time. You should be taking that failure, that loss, that lesson, that experience, and then pouring it into something else so you're not struggling. The goal is not to struggle forever. Next, kind of going back what I talked about a bunch, is like having money allows you to create more, not less. I don't know who created this notion of, or this assumption that having money lessens your value as an artist, but I feel like that's not true. Like I said, you get better things and the culture and genre grows and your fans are happier. Shoot, bro, you guys can tell, I'm a Murakami fan, bro. I'm an art fan. I like movies like Akira and just random things. It's like because these things are big, I can buy posters, I can buy memorabilia, I can buy figures, I can buy pillows, I can buy all these things that represent my fandom, and I'm happier in turn as a consumer of those things. So why wouldn't you want to make the people that you're making the art for happier? If you're making it for yourself, I would imagine that you'd be happier too, getting your ideas out there a bit more. And then lastly, I think on this end, and this is one of them big things, and that's like the term selling out, bro. Having resources or having bread does not mean you're selling out. It just means you're expanding your vision. And sometimes, to be honest with you, doing the sellout thing can be the best thing that makes your business. I'll give you guys a perfect example. People often talk about in the world of streetwear where cool is currency, that Zoomies at one point in time was not the coolest store. Bro, I love Zoomies. You could not argue with me on loving Zoomies. I think Zoomies is one of the coolest stores on the planet. Some people call me a sold out when I put our stuff in there. But you know why I didn't care? Because now what I look at from the bigger picture perspective is, one, the brand has some more validity, but two, it's now in 500 stores across the United States, and I get to reach the kid that's in the middle of Nebraska that's never gonna see another cool store because he doesn't live in LA, and the coolest store in his mall is Zoomies, and he's gonna be able to interact with my product and love my brand as a result of that. It just gives more resources for people to support the brand and you to touch more lives. Having more resources is a good thing. And again, it allows you to be more creative, create better product, hire more people, and just be the best version of yourself and be the best version of a business. And ultimately, in a creativity standpoint, it allows you to be a better creative. Let's get over this notion of selling out, man. It's like, it's like, dude, I used to watch brands in the streetwear world, brand owners. I'm not going to mention any of them, but used to be the saltiest dudes online, talk about all these other brand owners, about how these people sold out. And it's like, now when I look at their lives, it's like the brands who sold out, the brands may be gone, but the owners are happy with families. They're successful and they have all these things set up and they're going off to do other amazing things like direct and write books and things like that. And the guys who remain cool, guess what? They're complaining on Twitter still. It's like, bro, you should have sold out like everybody else, because guess what? You'd probably be happy. But, neither here nor there. The next thing, so let me tell you, before I hop into this, I know I've been talking for a super duper long time, but the next thing I want to talk about are just lessons I learned as the brand grew. So really, the first thing is just implementing systems and just delegating. And this is like a recap. Like I said, a great business is built on systems, and you got to delegate tasks and relinquish control. The better you can hire people and have better people in your process, the more successful you'll be. Delegating is the number one thing. Not having your hands on everything allows you to just move in spaces and have experts around you to get bigger. The next thing I really learned is just the role of being disciplined versus inspiration. The next thing I learned, and Virgil talked about this a lot, is really the importance of having discipline versus inspiration. I think when you're creating a business, you no longer can do things. You cannot have a consistent output when you're only creating based on inspiration. It has to be on discipline. Just because you don't want to do it does not mean that it can't get done. It's like the analogy of working out. It's like, just because you have a shitty workout, you're still going to see results. But if you stop working out completely, you see no results. From a business standpoint, you have to make sure you're disciplined and you're constantly on things. It's a business. It's a system. It should be a machine that's well oiled. So even if you don't feel like getting up the day and doing something, it's still operating, getting some things done. It's not about inspiration. It's about discipline and doing those same things over and over and over again. You see them quotes all the time. Do it bored, do it hungry, do it tired, do it whatever. Just get it done. And your feelings don't matter, really, to be honest with you. Just get the shit done. Stop complaining. Suck it up and get on it, because honestly, it's a very privileged thing for you to complain about the things that you ask for. It's like, imagine being in a position where you're getting the things that you want and you making money and you self-employed and you're helping other people, and you complaining about the fact that you got to get up in the morning and get it done. It's like, oh, woe is me. Cry them crocodile tears for somebody else. Get your lazy ass up and go do it, bro. Nobody's going to do it for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, God will give you some blessings, but you still got to do the work. Nowhere in the Bible does it say God is just going to give you something without doing the work. It doesn't work like that. You got to faith, believe, and do the work if you want to get that stuff going. No, it's like accomplishment don't come without action, And then, next thing, man, I got a lot of things on here too. The next thing I really want to talk about is like I said, the thing that I've really learned as far as lessons is that the leadership is almost, if not more important than the brand skills. Like I said, brand is subjective. Design is subjective. Good ideas are subjective, but leadership is not subjective. Leadership structure, having a good eye, hiring good people, and knowing when to pivot and adjust is more important, because I think that trends come and go, but like I said, navigating systems and creating processes that allow you to exist in any type of environment, those things don't. Those things are constant. Those things always exist. So you want to make sure you are always on that line. Make sure you are just as good of a leader as you are a designer, because that is what's ultimately going to push and propel your vision to the farthest level. Lastly, really, the biggest thing that you got to understand, and I've been part of this, is that not every deal is a good idea. Now, I know I talked about selling out and having resources. That's not to say that you should just take the first opportunity. You have to really think as a leader, which what I just said, what is going to be the best thing for my business, and where is my ending vision going to land? you got to understand and discern that not everything is a great idea. And that's kind of going back to what I said about the thirst move being your worst move. Is this the right move for your brand? Is this going to propel us in a positive direction forward? You got to think about those things, have discernment, pray to God for some of that stuff to give you the light and direction, and really ultimately know where you want to go. Because if you don't, it's like they say all the time, if you're not preparing for success, you're preparing to fail. If you're not preparing, you're preparing to fail. You're guaranteed to fail. So be a leader and prep. Be a visionary. Set out where you want to go. Know what does and doesn't align with your vision. Have a very clear understanding of that. Because if you don't, guess what? You just get shifted by anybody. It's like they talk about a man. It's like they talk about that in the Bible. It's like they say the man who sways is not reliant and will get nothing. You don't want to be the swaying person in business. You want to have a very clear stance of where exactly you want to go. Going back to the forest analogy as a leader, you got to sometimes climb the tree and chart the destination. You can't just be cutting all willy-nilly, because you're going to look up and be lost. And then eventually people are going to get tired. You're going to die in that forest. You'll never make it out. The last thing I'll talk about before I hop out of this, I know I've been talking for such a long time, and you guys can ask questions if you need to in the comments, but if you made it to this point, because I know this is going to be a long video. But the main thing I'm going to talk about too on the same end from the Starving Artist piece is maintaining artistic integrity. There is a balance that has to be achieved from maintaining personal success and business success and just overall integrity. And that kind of goes back to what I'm saying about charting the destination of you as a leader. It's like, I think that if you have a very clear vision and understanding for where you want to go, it makes it easy for you to chart that direction and that destination and be who you want to be. You have to, I think everyone has to define their level of where you want to go, the level how big you want to go, and let that be the bar that you set your success at. I think that the destruction of a lot of successful people is the fact that they get so greedy and caught up in making more and more and more. But at some point you have to be happy with who you are, where you are, and be grateful for that moment if you want to achieve more, or just be happy because there's always more out there. So as a business owner, you have to say to yourself, like, I'm comfortable being here and I'm cool with that. Doesn't matter of anything else. I just want to be here. I'm complacent with this and I'm comfortable with that. You got to have that direction for yourself. Next, on the same thing, it's like, I think as a business owner, kind of go back to what I was saying about my mentor saying the less you care in some aspects, the bigger you get. You got to know when it's okay to compromise the brand DNA and shift a little bit for the greater good of the business versus maintaining that same thing. Like I said, not every opportunity is a good opportunity. Not every move is a good move. A thirst move could be your worst move. So know when a good opportunity isn't just selling out, and be able to discern between, what's going to get you to that same level that you need to get to. Say, you know what, if you want your brand to be big, maybe you got to put it in retail. Who cares if you make a couple people mad? Because in turn, you're going to get thousands of other customers. So look at the pros and cons between everything, but know when it's time to compromise and do things for the better good of the business, not your personal thing. Remember, the business is about your customers, not you. You get in the business to serve people, not serve yourself. If you want to serve yourself, just make your own one-of-ones or do what you got to do for yourself. But don't start a business for that. Fact of the matter is, the biggest reality is you can be a creative and a business owner at the same time. The Starving Artist piece is overrated. Running a business and being a great business owner at the end of the day just makes you a better creative and allows your ideas to kind of get out there even more. There really is beauty in the fact that there's adjustment. I know that there's a lot of compromise and there's a lot of shift that comes in things, but really being successful in business and not only as a creative is all about mindset. And if you want to really be a great leader, a great entrepreneur, a great creative, having a great team of people around you is what's really going to give you that fuel and that fire to get to where you want to get to. And even on that same end too, it's like, you got to understand that not everything is about you. Like I said, business is about people, about customers, your process. At some point in time, you have to remove yourself from that and make it about the people, the process, and understand that though it's not about you in the weeds anymore, you're still ultimately creating your vision. You got to have some sense of like relief of ego, so that way you can get to where you want to get to and ultimately grow the overall vision of your brand, business, or whatever it is. Lastly, man, you really gotta just understand the difference of the different roles, man. Like I said, delegation is the number one thing that'll take you to the next level, to bring you to the promised land. Man, my mentor's main motto is hire slow, fire fast. Find good people, and if they work, keep them, build them up, give them a good environment. If they don't work, get rid of them quickly and find somebody else. But keeping people around you that don't understand your vision and portray where you you want to get to, or it will never get you to the end goal and the light that you want to get to. It's like releasing a sandbag, man. A hot air balloon can only rise if it has a less weight. And sometimes you got to drop the weight that ain't working if you want to elevate to the highest level. I guess, I don't know. Let me ask you guys in the audience. I mean, are you guys more of an entrepreneur? Are you more a creative person? Are you more a business person? I think to end this video, one, leave it in the comments if you are. I read every single comment. But two, to end this video, I want to say it's really important to know where you are in your business to be successful. I think that knowing where you're the greatest at will allow you to build people around you and build the best type of business and be the best type of creative. I think that like every business has, we are like a system of structure and having, compounding relationships where it's like you have creatives that are with business people and you have type A's that are with type B's, but all together you create a good ecosystem that ultimately has your brand grow and just push your vision overall. So, just be realistic about yourself and where you are in your business if you want to grow. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure to like and comment. If you're a creative or a business person, let me know in the comments. And if there's other things you want to talk about, please leave it down there. Like I said, I read every single comment. I respond to everybody as much as I can. So, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and let me know what you want to talk about next. We out.